Good afternoon and welcome to GKBA Today. GKBA, the Greater Kendall Business Association, is the friendliest place to do business. And on GKBA Today, what we do is we feature a member each and every time. My name is Carlos Ribero. I'm your host. First and foremost, we thank Community News for this platform. It allows us to get the word out and just talk about GKBA and the community. Today I have one of our newest members, actually, and his name is Dr. Jose Martinez. Dr. Martinez, Jose, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I will say, what an incredible experience just walking into here and being able to see the history on all of these walls. First time here, so I'm loving it.
Yeah, this place is a museum and then some. It's really an unbelievable place. So I like to start by just getting to know a little bit about you first, then we'll talk about your journey and your business. So tell us a little bit about you. Were you born here? Where you went to school? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Cuba,
Okay.
but I came at a very young age. I've been here practically my whole life.
Okay.
I got to Miami when I was 2 years old, and I've been here ever since. Went to high school here locally at Braddock Senior High.
Okay.
Went to Florida International University, FIU, for both undergrad and grad school, and became a physical therapist. Those were the cards that were laid out for me. I've always loved Miami, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to stay here and then eventually open up my business. I was a practicing physical therapist for about 4 years, and then shortly thereafter, the COVID pandemic came, kind of a giant curveball for all of us,
Right.
we could say, and really a moment for all of us to kind of assess our situations. And for me, at that time, I was freshly married, had no kids, and I realized that there was probably not a better time than at that moment to open up my business. So I opened up Propel Physical Therapy. We've been going for a little over 4 years. We have 2 locations here in South Florida. And essentially what we do in short is we help people get back to living pain-free lives.
Okay. So I want to take it back a minute. So when did you know you wanted to be in physical therapy? What was your undergrad degree in?
Yeah, so I was actually a biology major.
Okay.
I was going down the pre-med route.
Yeah.
And coming from 2 Cuban parents who fled from their country here to the States, a lot of us tend to have the familial pressures of either becoming a doctor or an attorney, let's say. So
that's all they know. I used to get the same thing.
And with good reason. They want the best for their kids,
Right.
for their families. And I kind of realized that coming into maybe my second year in undergrad that maybe this wasn't my calling per se. I was always an athlete, played sports my whole life. And I like the opportunity to be around athletes in the future as well, especially with my profession. So physical therapy called my name. I was one of the fortunate ones that kind of picked blindly, you can say, even though I knew what I was getting into. I didn't have a physical therapy experience myself as a patient.
Right.
And since then, I kind of committed myself. I always knew I wanted to pursue a higher education, go into grad school, and that gave me the opportunity to get my doctorate degree in physical therapy and eventually practice here.
Yeah, what amazes me, and it was a surprise to me until, I'm going to say about 15 years ago, that I didn't know you needed a doctorate degree to be a physical therapist. Do you have any feel for when that all started? Has it always been like that?
I might be mistaken, but I think the exact year was in 2008.
Okay.
Prior to about 2003, it was a bachelor's degree. There are still practicing physical therapists right now that only have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Then there was a span of about 5 to 6 years, which then it became a master's degree. And then finally around 2008, so about 15 years ago, they opted for the doctorate level profession. There's a lot of speculation on why that is. One of the main reasons is that as a society, now a lot more people are seeing physical therapists directly without getting prescriptions and seeing people. So they have to be readily available and able to screen people for any red flags and be able to refer out when needed. So it puts a little bit more pressure on them from a practitioner standpoint.
Okay. So do you specialize in any type of physical therapy? I know some, for example, just do athletes, some do some treatments like I know that, for example, pelvic floor, not
Mhm.
every physical therapist does that. So what is your niche, so to speak?
Yeah, so we like to be very clear with that. We are an outpatient orthopedic facility, and
What does that mean?
yeah, so we primarily treat people that have musculoskeletal pain, which essentially means any kind of joint muscle type pain. When people call our offices, if they need some sort of specialty, you mentioned pelvic floor or neuro, like a stroke or a traumatic accident, we're the first ones to tell them, hey, we are absolutely great at what we do, but that is not our specialty. So we primarily treat people, whether it's post-operative or non-operative. If they're dealing with muscle or joint pain, we are the best for them. One of the things that makes us stand out is the fact that we provide individualized care, right? We treat these people. Our specific niches, we can say, are kind of like your adolescent athletes and your typical weekend warrior.
Okay.
I know that encompasses a lot of different people, which is the working professional who just enjoys doing some sort of recreational activity, and they can't because they have some sort of pain or injury. But again, what sets us apart is that we are very good at doing just that, but also we see people on a one-on-one basis, meaning the max that our therapists have per hour is 2.
Okay.
We see on average 1.6 patients per hour, which here in Miami is not very common at all. You're typically seeing practitioners that have 4 to 5.
So they're not really spending that quality time with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the big reason why I went into private practice. I had worked for other corporations, prior to that. And there were a lot of frustrations on the quality of care. And even just from a burnout standpoint, getting to the end of the day and
Sure.
feeling like you didn't have the ability to provide the best level of service.
Yeah. So you mentioned weekend warriors. Is pickleball good for business?
I mean, yeah, I guess you can say that. That's definitely one of the big sports coming up now. That paddle, golf has really taken a big step here in South Florida. But regardless, there's always going to be different sports that people enjoy. And whatever that is, there's always the I don't want to say opportunity, but the vulnerability of potentially getting injured. There's so many factors that come into this, from your athletic skill level to so many other health factors, right? From a mobility, strength, flexibility standpoint, you put all of that in a very unpredictable environment like a sport like pickleball, and things can happen for sure.
Yeah. And I take it that the pickleball athlete skews a little older, or am I wrong about that?
I would argue against it.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit of everything.
All right.
Selfishly, I'll say it's one of the things I enjoy playing the most.
Okay.
I love golf, but pickleball is a really fun sport. For our team, we typically do a monthly event, kind of like a team bonding.
Right.
And one of the things my team loves doing the most is pickleball. And we'll get together. On average, our employees are anywhere from 20 to, mid-late 30s. And it's something we love doing. So it's a little bit of everything. You see everyone out there.
That's excellent. I want to go back to, you said the C word, the COVID word. And it's amazing how many people I interview bring that up. Almost 100% of people still talk about their COVID experience. So you're working somewhere and COVID hits. What went on in your mind? Because you went from being an employee, right, to having zero business. And what light bulb went off that, you know what, I'm going to start my own business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question for a few reasons. I do think that was a pivotal moment for pretty much everyone all over the world. For me, like you mentioned, I was an employee. I had a pretty good paying job. I wasn't in a bad situation.
Right.
I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I always had some sort of like entrepreneurial spirit or like inkling that that's something I wanted to pursue. And like I touched up on in the past, like I had just gotten married. We didn't have kids.
Right.
Our financial responsibilities weren't as high as they are right now.
Right.
And I knew in that there's never a right time to open up your business. And I think for a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, a lot of people have these aspirations, but there's something that's holding them back. And I realized that partly that was me as well at that time. And one of the big realizations that I had was the fact that I knew that everybody here locally if they were an existing business owner, one of the things they were doing is trying to cut back on costs. And for me, I'm coming in with a huge opportunity, a fresh mindset, and somebody that has nothing to lose. Like, and I think
Right.
that's behind the other side of fear for a lot of people, is they're constantly playing the worst case scenario, but they don't play out, okay, what if the worst case scenario actually happens? Like, if I open up my business and I fail, could I get another job as a physical therapist? The obvious answer is yes. So, I took a big risk after a lot of people were saying, hey, this is a pretty terrible time considering that you're in the healthcare space.
Right.
And your practice involves putting your hands on people and being in front of others. And nonetheless, we went through some ups and downs because of lockdowns and things like that. But every month, slowly and steadily, we saw our business grow. And looking back at it right now, we've been in existence for over 4 years, and each and every year we've grown at least 50%. So it's something we're extremely proud of.
Good for you. And what was that like? What was that first step you took when I'm going to open a business? And what did you do?
Yeah. So I've been told I have somewhat of an obsessive personality. So once I made that decision in my head, I'm like, okay, what would be the next obvious steps? I started literally scrolling through CRE search engines, so commercial real estate search engines, and looking at different spaces. I knew in my head what kind of my budget was. I wanted to mitigate risk and keep overhead low. I was willing to do all the work myself, whether it was answer phone calls, charge patients, schedule, see the patients for the service I was providing. So I had an idea of what I wanted in my head. I started contacting realtors and seeing different spaces. And then from there, I put together some sort of marketing and strategy plan while I was doing all of that. I've always been into marketing, and it's something that I've continuously fed throughout the years. And I knew that a lot of people in business right now in physical therapy, they were older business owners, and that's maybe not something that they have top of mind for something they want to develop. And on the contrary, I loved it. So I started looking into different strategies, whether it was SEO, starting to build my Google My Business page as soon as I got my lease going, and literally messaging people, everyone in my contacts, like, hey,
Right.
I know you haven't seen me personally at my business, but based on like how you know me and the level of professionalism I've had in my previous years, if you wouldn't mind, leave a Google review for us, I would highly appreciate it. And by the time I opened, I had 50 to 70 Google reviews off the bat. So little things like that. I think I was very proactive in each and every little step, even before opening my doors, and didn't take no for an answer. If I didn't know something, I was very much willing to find out what that is. There's so much information readily available online. You just have to look for it.
Yeah. You mentioned reviews, and that's something, being a marketing guy, I always emphasize it is part of your marketing foundation because it builds credibility. And really, if you don't have credibility and you're spending money on SEO, you're driving people to your website and they're seeing either no reviews or bad reviews, not a good thing. You may just be throwing your money away. So I know that you are an alumnus of Goldman Sachs 10,000 businesses. How did you decide to do that, and what was that process like?
Yeah, and it's the reason why I'm here today. So like many people that go through the program, I was getting countless emails about it, being completely frank and honest. And I kept like just going back to it. I'm like, wow, this is like a real opportunity for me as a business owner. I went to PT school. I didn't get an MBA. I don't have any business background outside of just like listening to podcasts and reading different books. But I knew I wanted something a little more formal. So I took a leap of faith, not really knowing what it was, and I applied, went in for the interview, and I was able to get selected. And even then, I didn't really truly understand what the value was that I was going to get out of it. And honestly, it was truly incredible. It put me in a different position where in the past I would have largely avoided these conversations, even the one we're having today, or
Right.
networking, going to social events. And I was very much of the train of thought, like I have to put my blinders on and just focus on what I'm doing right now. And I realized that number one, it wasn't in line with my end goal and what I wanted to do and become from a professional standpoint. And I realized I just needed the help. So going through that program was incredible. It gave me a very solid foundation for all aspects of business and validated a lot of the passions that I have. Because even though I'm a physical therapist, I've realized that I truly love everything relating to marketing, branding, operations. Those are the things that really drive me and get me excited each and every day.
What are some of the things you learned
Within the program?
within the program?
A lot of it selfishly is about me.
Okay.
In the sense of it's not just what you learn, the lectures that they provide. It's the kind of conversations that you have. It's highly interactive. So you'll be there and they'll do a lecture, and probably every 30 minutes you're breaking out into your groups and discussing exactly what they spoke about, but within your business, and then giving feedback to each other. So there are a lot of things that, again, I don't have a lot of formal training on from a financial standpoint. A lot of the background that I have is just listening and applying and seeing what works within my business. So being able to see high-level professionals, people that are considered experts in these fields, kind of validate some of the things I was doing, and then offering different perspectives was so valuable because it was easy to take it out from there and then apply it directly into my business.
Talking about applying it in your business, what are some of the things that you took away and started to implement
Right away?
right away and over time too?
Yeah. Being completely honest, each and every time we got together within the cohort and for that group, it was a different topic.
Okay.
I,
Such as?
such as operations, financials, marketing, branding, leadership. They called it "It's the People." And what I did each and every time is everything I learned, I took it straight to my team. So within my company, we do a monthly in-service presentation where one member of the team goes up and talks
Mm-hmm.
to the entire team. So they'll go up and they'll talk about any topic that they pick.
Right.
I was getting some of these like general topics and going and literally feeding it to my business because I knew there was so much value in it. So just systemizing everything, my operations, seeing the value in that, the understanding of all the different financial metrics and just organizational metrics that they were introducing, and being able to take that and put it directly into my business, I would say that was very easy to apply.
Hiring people has to be one of the just most challenging, at least for me, always has been pretty challenging. Did you learn anything about HR specifically, and do you have any type of special methodologies on how you hire?
I think that's a great question. I think hiring is at the forefront of the issues that a lot of businesses face, regardless of what that profession is. For me, for example, we're a teaching facility. What that means is we have contracts with local universities, their physical therapy programs, and we take students on rotations year round.
That's great.
For us, it's a great format because number one is we really appreciate and enjoy the teaching within our business, but also it's an extended interview. I always tell young clinicians and young aspiring professionals this. Whenever you do an internship or a rotation, it's an opportunity for you to learn about them. And it goes both ways. It can't just be employer making sure employee is the right fit. It has to be the same way for the employee and the employer. So similarly, when somebody completes a rotation with us, I know at the end of that, number one, how that person is going to fit into our organization, but also I know they truly understand who we are as a business. And that's very important, right? There needs to be buy-in from both parties because that's how you get people to commit entirely to your mission and your purpose. So we've been able to develop what we like to call a clinician pipeline because being a teaching facility and having good recognition here locally as a physical therapy organization, like I just finished speaking at the Florida Physical Therapy Association Student Conclave, and we had students from all over the state of Florida learn about who we are as a company. So just in that, we're able to have prospective physical therapists coming out into the field that want to work with us, and it gives us a little bit of background on them. And then from the other side, we like to split our organization within 3 major buckets. We have our therapists, our clinicians, our patient experience team, which a lot of people consider them like your front office receptionists and office managers, and then leadership. Leadership, we try our very best not to hire externally. We want to groom people from within. So we've been fortunate that, our current members that are in leadership, they were past physical therapists. And similarly for me, when I opened my business, I was answering phone calls, I was treating patients. So I got to see everything from the bottom and then work my way up. And that's the best way to get into leadership. It's when you've done it yourself within that company, because there's a standard that you've already learned and established and can teach onto others as well.
I agree 100%, and they can't pull the wool over your eyes either.
Yeah.
Because you know how it's done.
For sure.
How many employees do you have now?
So right now we're 11 employees. So we're still a small company,
right?
But we're growing. Right now we're anticipating hiring another physical therapist. Everyone we hire from a clinician standpoint is full-time. At least for us, that's the best buy-in we get, is when our clinicians are full-time with us. They're not splitting their times with other companies. And then we're hoping to hire another 2 patient experience members as well.
And how many of the people you've hired came from those programs from the universities?
Right now, we're a team of 5 clinicians, and it's 4 of them have
came from that.
Yeah. And 1 was external. And even then, she came highly recommended, and we both had an understanding of who each other are.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess it really paves the way to them living your vision, living your mission, and getting things done your way.
Yeah, and I like to say this as well. We're in the service industry, but at the end of the day, we're in the business of people, right? If you provide a service, you serve people.
Sure.
And then as an organization, we know that we provide a very good service, but at the forefront of everything is that we are a team-centered organization. We want every employee that comes in to our company to know that, number 1, we have their back, but number 2 is that there's a level of trust and safety, you can say, between employer and employee alike. And a lot of the times, if you have the right systems and operations in place, the service takes care of itself, because we've already maintained a standard for what we do that everybody's fully bought in. And again, it's worked for us, and we're very happy with it.
You mentioned one differentiator, which is your ratio of clinicians to patients. Mm-hmm. What else makes you different? Obviously, there's a lot of competition in Miami. What else makes Propel Physical Therapy different?
You're right. From even just within our profession, there's probably a physical therapist office every other block here in Kendall. What makes us different is a few things. You mentioned the clinician to patient ratio, which is extremely important. Patients want to feel like they're taken care of.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with pain, you don't want to be one of 5 and just waiting there to see what's the next thing you're going to do. You want people that are actively participating in your care. So that's at the forefront. Number 2 is we have everything put together in a way that the entire patient experience is as seamless as possible. We are extremely meticulous with every step of the way. From the moment a patient calls, we are efficient in how we take that potential patient intake and getting information back to them. We're trying to reduce as much gray area as possible every step of the way. Essentially, we want to hold a patient's hand and take them through the entirety of a plan of care, from the moment they decide to do business with us to the end when they're feeling completely better. So it's an all-encompassing communication and clarity that's at the forefront. So I guess that would be the second thing. The third is that we've built a level of trust not only amongst our team and patients, but within our community as like a heralded, well-respected organization for physical therapy. A lot of the top orthopedics recommend us for a reason, not because, we're paying them or anything like that, because we don't do any of that.
Right.
But they know that we provide a level of service that is outstanding. And then the last thing I'll say is the soft skills. We put an extraordinary amount of attention on our communication strategies with patients, the soft skills. We do every single new patient evaluation one-on-one. Absolutely no overlap. There's no other patient there at the same time with that therapist, because we want that patient to know that when they walk in, they are the most important person. And a lot of times that first time, it's just a conversation. People, at least here locally and even nationwide, when you go to other practitioners, regardless of the field, you're there for 10 minutes and then you're getting like passed on, right?
Yeah.
So it's a moment, and we realize that. So we'll take 60 minutes just hearing patients out to get all the information we need to provide the best level of service.
You mentioned getting referrals from orthopedics. How else do you market yourself?
So good question. 20 years ago, the traditional marketing strategy for physical therapists was to show up at physicians' offices, knock on the door with a box of donuts and say, hey, how can I talk to your referral
Almost
coordinator?
like a pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah, exactly. So for me in my business, I started, that was like the Red Sea, I think you call it. Like everybody was doing that. I had to find an alternate route. So that's why I got really into online marketing and trying to get customer acquisition and lead generation through there. And I realized that if we provide a very good service, these referring physicians are going to find out about us and they're going to want to do business with us, essentially. And that's kind of what happened naturally throughout the years. People have walked in through our doors, have had good experiences. And ultimately, we've been able to forge and create very natural, genuine, organic relationships with different trusted orthopedics all over Miami. So I like to say, we were talking about the social media or the online world and marketing. We like to have a level of like omnipresence where we're everywhere, right? If somebody's searching on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or a search engine like Bing, Yahoo, we want to make sure we're coming out everywhere. So you spoke about websites, right? If you have a great website, but then your Google reviews, you have none, like that's hugely important, because we live in a different time right now where it's not just one referral source. A lot of people are like cross-checking and cross-validating that you're the best fit for them.
Absolutely.
So it's not only, oh, hey, I recommend these people for your low back pain. Okay, cool. I searched them up. I have your word. But what else? Do they align with the values that I have with an individual? At the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they like, they trust, and they share values with. So there has to be some level of alignment between a consumer and a business as well.
What you just mentioned in the business, we call that omni-channel.
Yeah.
About being just everywhere you can be. And really that's what you want to do, because your biggest challenge in building a strong brand is building awareness.
Yeah.
Because I may not need physical therapy today, but if I'm seeing Propel physical therapy on TikTok, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, the day comes when, you know what, I remember them. I'm going to check out the reviews. I'm going to check out their website. And you definitely have more of a chance if you're top of mind.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I like to look at it as branding is awareness and recognition. Marketing is how you deliver it to the consumer. So it's hugely important. And branding, a lot of it is direct and indirect. Everything that happens within your organization, what you do, but not only that, what people like your patients and your team members say about your company when they walk out, that's part of your brand. A lot of that is done indirectly. So you have to be conscious of everything that's happening within your organization, the way people feel when they walk in through your doors, the way they feel when they walk out of a session. All these things are so important because that's literally shaping your brand.
That goes back to your brand.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we've got just a few seconds left.
Okay.
But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to look into that camera and to tell people how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so the easiest way to get in touch with me, I would say, is Instagram. We're very active as a company on Propel Physical Therapy MIA, particularly on Instagram. That would be the best way. If you want to reach out to me directly, super open to it as well. You can email me at jose@propel-physical-therapy.com.
Thanks a lot, Jose. Or Dr. Martinez. I like
Jose, it's okay.
yeah, but I like to give doctors their due. You paid your dues. You go through school for quite a long time. So really, anybody who has a doctorate, I like to call them doctor.
I appreciate that.
Anyway, thanks for being on the show, and thank you for being a guest here or a viewer on GKBA today.